It's time for chapter 9. So grab your books, pull up a chair, open it up. It's page 121, chapter 9. I have the worst family reunion ever. Annabeth volunteered to go alone since she had the cap of invisibility, but I convinced her it was too dangerous. Either we all went together or nobody went. Nobody, Tyson voted, please. But in the end, he came along, nervously chewing on his huge fingernails. We stopped at our cabin long enough to gather our stuff. We figured whatever happened, we would not be staying another night aboard the zombie cruise ship, even if they did have $1 million bingo. I made sure Riptide was in my pocket and the vitamins and thermos from Hermes were at the top of my bag. I didn't want Tyson to carry everything, but he insisted, and Annabeth told me not to worry about it. Tyson could carry 3 full duffel bags over his shoulder as easily as I could carry a backpack. We sneaked through the corridors following the ship's "You Are Here" signs towards the Admiralty suite. Annabeth scattered ahead invisibly. We hid whenever someone passed by, but most of the passengers we saw were just glassy-eyed zombie passengers. As we came up from the stairs to deck 13, where the Admiralty suite was supposed to be, Annabeth hissed, "Hide!" and shoved us into a supply closet. I heard a couple of guys coming down the hall. "You see that Ethiopian Draken in the cargo hold?" one of them said. The other laughed. "Yeah, it's awesome." Annabeth was still invisible, but she squeezed my arm hard. I got a feeling I should know the second guy's voice. "I hear they got 2 more coming," the familiar voice said. "They keep arriving at this rate. Oh man, no contest." The voices faded down the corridor. "That was Chris Rodriguez." Annabeth took off her cap and turned visible. "You remember, from cabin 11. I sort of recalled Chris from the summer before. He was one of those undetermined campers who got stuck in the Hermes cabin because his Olympian dad or mom never claimed him. Now that I thought about it, I realized I hadn't seen Chris at camp this summer. What's another half-blood doing here?" Annabeth shook her head, clearly troubled. We kept going down the corridor. I didn't need maps anymore to know I was getting close to Luke. I sensed something cold and unpleasant, the presence of evil. "Percy," Annabeth stopped suddenly. "Look." She stood in front of a glass wall looking down into the multi-story canyon that ran through the middle of the ship. At the bottom was the promenade, a mall full of shops, but that's not what had caught Annabeth's attention. A group of monsters had assembled in front of the candy store. A dozen Lastrygonian giants, like the ones who had attacked me with dodgeballs, 2 hellhounds, and a few even stranger creatures, humanoid females with twin serpent tails instead of legs. "Scythian Dracanae," Annabeth whispered. "Dragon women." The monsters made a semicircle around a young guy in Greek armor who was hacking on a straw dummy. A lump formed in my throat when I realized the dummy was wearing an orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirt. As we watched, the guy in the armor stabbed the dummy through the belly and ripped upwards. Straw flew everywhere. The monsters cheered and howled. Annabeth stepped away from the window. Her face was ashen. "Come on," I told her, trying to sound braver than I felt. "The sooner we find Luke, the better." At the end of the hallway were double oak doors that looked like they must lead to somewhere important. When we were 30 feet away, Tyson stopped. Voices inside. "You can hear that far?" I asked. Tyson closed his eyes like he was concentrating hard. Then his voice changed, becoming a husky approximation of Luke's. "The prophecy ourselves. The fools won't know which way to turn." Before I could react, Tyson's voice changed again, becoming deeper and gruffer like the other guy we'd heard talking to Luke outside the cafeteria. "You really think the old horseman's gone for good?" Tyson laughed Luke's laugh. "They can't trust him. Not with the skeletons in his closet. The poisoning of the tree was the final straw." Annabeth shivered. "Stop that, Tyson. How do you do that? It's creepy." Tyson opened his eyes, looking puzzled. "Just listening." "Keep going," I said. "What else are they saying?" He closed his eyes again. His voice hissed in a gruff man's voice. "Quiet!" Then Luke's voice whispering. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Tyson said in a gruff voice, "right outside." Too late, I realized what was happening. I had just enough time to say, "Run!" when the doors of the stateroom burst open, and there was Luke, flanked by 2 hairy giants armed with javelins, their bronze tips aimed right at our chests. "Well," Luke said with a crooked smile, "if it isn't my 2 favorite cousins. Come on in." The stateroom was beautiful and horrible. The beautiful part: huge windows curved along the back wall looking out of the stern of the ship. Green sea and blue sky stretched all the way to the horizon. A Persian rug covered the floor. 2 plush sofas occupied the middle of the room with canopied bed in one corner and a mahogany dining table in the other. The table was loaded with food, pizza boxes, bottles of soda, a stack of roast beef sandwiches on a silver platter. The horrible part: on the velvet dais at the back of the room was a 10-foot-long golden casket, a sarcophagus, engraved with ancient Greek scenes of cities in flames and heroes dying grisly deaths. Despite the sunlight streaming through the windows, the casket made the whole room feel cold. "Well," Luke said, spreading his arms proudly, "a little nicer than cabin 11, huh?" He had changed since last summer. Instead of Bermuda shorts and a t-shirt, he wore a button-down shirt, khaki pants, and leather loafers. His sandy hair, which used to be so unruly, was now clipped short. He looked like an evil male model, showing off what the fashionable college-age villain was to be wearing at Harvard this year. He still had the scar under his eye, a jagged white line from the battle with the dragon, and propped against the sofa was his magical sword, Backbiter, glinting strangely with its half-steel, half-celestial bronze blade that could kill both mortals and monsters. "Sit," he told us. He waved his hand, and 3 dining room chairs scooted themselves into the middle of the room. None of us sat. Luke's large friends were still pointing their javelins at us. They looked like twins, but they weren't human. They stood about 8 feet tall for one thing, and they only wore blue jeans, probably because their enormous chests were already shag-carpeted with thick brown fur. They had claws for fingernails and feet like paws. Their noses were snout-like, and their teeth were all pointed canines. "Where's my manners?" Luke said smoothly. "These are my assistants, Agrias and Aureus. Perhaps you've heard of them." I said nothing. Despite the javelin pointed at me, it wasn't the bear twins who scared me. I'd imagined meeting Luke again many times since he tried to kill me last summer. I'd picture myself boldly standing up to him, challenging him to a duel. But now that we were face to face, I could barely stop my hands from shaking. "You don't know Agrias and Aureus' story?" Luke said. "Their mother, well, it's sad, really. Aphrodite ordered the young woman to fall in love. She refused and ran to Artemis for help. Artemis let her become one of the maiden huntresses, but Aphrodite got her revenge. She bewitched the young woman into falling in love with a bear. When Artemis found out, she abandoned the girl in disgust. Typical of the gods, wouldn't you say? They fight with one another, and the poor humans get caught in the middle. The girl's twin sons here, Agrias and Aureus, have no love for Olympus. They like half-bloods well enough, though." "For lunch," Agrias growled. His gruff voice was the one I'd heard talking to Luke earlier. "He." His brother Aureus laughed, licking his fur-lined lips. He kept laughing like he was having an asthmatic fit until Luke and Agrias both looked at him. "Shut up, you idiot," Agrias growled. "Go punish yourself." Aureus whimpered. He trudged over to the corner of the room, slumped in a stool, and banged his forehead against the dining room table, making the silver platters rattle. Luke acted like this was perfectly normal behavior. He made himself comfortable on the sofa and propped his feet up on the coffee table. "Well, Percy, we let you survive another year. I hope you appreciated it. How's your mom? How's school?" "You poisoned Talia's tree." Luke sighed. "Right to the point, eh? Okay, sure, I poisoned the tree. So what?" "How could you?" Annabeth sounded so angry I thought she'd explode. "Talia saved your life, our lives. How could you dishonor her?" "I didn't dishonor her," Luke snapped. "The gods dishonored her, Annabeth. If Talia were alive, she'd be on my side." "Liar. If you knew what was coming, you'd understand." "I understand you want to destroy the camp," she said. "You're a monster." Luke shook his head. "The gods have blinded you. Can't you imagine a world without them, Annabeth? What good is ancient history you study? 3,000 years of baggage. The West is rotten to the core. It has to be destroyed. Join me. We can start a new world. We could use your intelligence, Annabeth." "Because you have none of your own." His eyes narrowed. I know you, Annabeth. You deserve better than tagging along with some hopeless quest to save the camp. Half-Blood Hill will be overrun by monsters within the month. The heroes who survive will have no choice but to join us or be hunted to extinction. You really want to be on the losing team? With company like this? Luke pointed at Tyson. Hey, I said. Traveling with a Cyclops? Luke chided. Talk about dishonoring Talia's memory. I'm surprised at you, Annabeth. You of all people. Stop it, she shouted. I didn't know what Luke was talking about, but Annabeth buried her head in her hands like she was about to cry. Leave her alone, I said, and leave Tyson out of this. Luke laughed. Oh, yeah, I heard. Your father claimed him. I must have looked surprised because Luke smiled. Yes, Percy, I know all about that. And about your plan to find the fleas. And what were those coordinates again? 30, 31, 75, 12. You see, I still have friends at camp who keep me posted. Spies, you mean? He shrugged. How many insults from your father can you stand, Percy? You think he's grateful to you? You think Poseidon cares for you any more than he cares for this monster? Tyson clenched his fists and made a rumbling sound down in his throat. Luke just chuckled. The gods are so using you, Percy. You have any idea what's in store for you if you reach your 16th birthday? Has Chiron even told you the prophecy? I wanted to get in Luke's face and tell him off, but as usual, he knew just how to throw me off balance. 16th birthday. I mean, I knew Chiron had received prophecy from the Oracle many years ago. I knew part of it was about me. But if I reach my 16th birthday? I didn't like the sound of that. I know what I need to know, I managed. Like who my enemies are. Then you're a fool. Tyson smashed the nearest dining chair to splinters. Percy's not a fool. Before I could stop him, he charged Luke. His fist came down on Luke's head, a double overhead blow that would have knocked a hole in titanium, but the Bear twins intercepted. They each caught one of Tyson's arms and stopped him cold. They pushed him back and Tyson stumbled. He fell to the carpet so hard the deck shook. Too bad, Cyclops, Luke said. Looks like my grizzly friends together are more of a match for your strength. Maybe I should let them... Luke, I cut in. Listen to me. Your father sent us. His face turned the color of pepperoni. Don't even mention him. He told us to take this boat. I thought it was just for a ride, but he sent us here to find you. He told me he won't give up on you no matter how angry you are. Angry? Luke roared. Give up on me? He abandoned me, Percy. I want Olympus destroyed. Every throne crushed to rubble. You tell Hermes it's going to happen too. Each time a half-blood joins us, the Olympians grow weaker and we grow stronger. He grows stronger. Luke pointed to the gold sarcophagus. The box creeped me out, but I was determined not to show it. So I said, what's so special? Then it hit me. What might be in the sarcophagus? The temperature of the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Whoa, you don't mean... He is reforming, Luke said. Little by little, we're calling his life force out of the pit. With every recruit who pledges our cause, another small piece appears. That's disgusting, Annabeth said. Luke sneered at her. Your mother was born from Zeus's split skull, Annabeth. I wouldn't talk. Soon there will be enough of the Titan lore that we can make him whole again. We will piece together a new body for him, a work worthy of the forges of Hephaestus. You're insane, Annabeth said. Join us and you'll be rewarded. We have powerful friends, sponsors rich enough to buy this cruise ship and much more. Percy, your mother will never have to work again. You can buy her a mansion. You can have power, fame, whatever you want. Annabeth, you can realize your dream of being an architect. You can build your monument to the last 1,000 years, a temple to the lords of the next age. Go to Tartarus, she said. Luke sighed. Shame. He picked up something that looked like a TV remote and pressed a red button. Within seconds, the door of the stateroom opened and 2 uniformed crew members came in armed with nightsticks. They had the same glassy-eyed look as the other mortals I'd seen, but I had a feeling this wouldn't make them any less dangerous in a fight. Ah, good security, Luke said. I'm afraid we have some stowaways. Yes, sir, they said dreamily. Luke turned to Aureus. It's time to feed the Ethiopian draken. Take these fools below and show them how it's done. Orpheus grinned stupidly. Hee 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 hee. Let me go too, Agrias grumbled. My brother's worthless. That Cyclops is no threat, Luke said. He glanced back at the golden casket as if something were troubling him. Agrias, stay here. We have important matters to discuss. But, Aureus, don't fail me. Stay in the hold and make sure the draken is properly fed. Aureus prodded us with his javelin and herded us out of the stateroom, followed by the 2 human security guards. As I walked down the corridor with Aureus's javelin poking me in the back, I thought about what Luke had said, that the Bear twins together were a match for Tyson's strength, but maybe separately. We took the corridor amidship and walked across an open deck lined with lifeboats. I knew the ship well enough to realize this would be our last look at sunlight. Once we got to the other side, we'd take the elevator down into the hold, and that would be it. I looked at Tyson and said, now. Thank the gods he understood. He turned and smacked Aureus 30 feet backward into the swimming pool, right into the middle of the zombie tourist family. Ah, the kids yelled in unison. We are not having a blast in the pool. One of the security guards drew his nightstick, but Annabeth knocked the wind out of him with a well-placed kick. The other guard ran for the nearest alarm box. Stop him, Annabeth yelled, but it was too late. Just before I banged him on the head with a deck chair, he hit the alarm. Red lights flared, sirens wailed. Lifeboat, I yelled. We ran for the nearest one. By the time we got the cover off, more security men were swarming the deck, pushing aside tourists and waiters with trays of tropical drinks. A guy in Greek armor drew his sword and charged, but slipped in a puddle of pina colada. Lagristoni and archers assembled on the deck above us, notching their arrows with their enormous bows. How do you launch this thing? Screamed Annabeth. A hellhound leaped at me, but Tyson slammed it aside with a fire extinguisher. Get in, I yelled. I uncapped Riptide and slashed the first volley of arrows out of the air. Any second we'd be overwhelmed. The lifeboat was hanging over the side of the ship, high above the water. Annabeth and Tyson were having no luck with the release pulley. I jumped in beside them. Hold on, I yelled, and I cut the ropes. A shower of arrows whistled over our heads as we free fell towards the ocean. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so that is chapter 9. Next week we'll pick up chapter 10, and we're about halfway through the book, so woohoo! Keep reading, keep listening, and stay gritty.